Okay, very good, very good. I see some folks are coming in. Go ahead and just pop in a comment, say hello. Oh my goodness, I got a thumbs up. Wow, that validation is so great to see. Great, 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 great. So I am very excited to have all of you along. In just a moment, I'm going to start the proper presentation of the actual thing that we want to be talking about today. And then I will be looking at your comments in this Facebook event for questions to answer at the end. And that is approval. Approval is good. Yes, we all like our validation. And yeah, that's how it's going to work. So just while we give everybody a little bit of time to get settled in here, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up in this place. First of all, if you don't know me, I'm Tony Bacigalupo. I started Manhattan's first co-working space back in 2008. Been in the co-working biz for over 12 years now, and I've had, from the very beginning, just a very strong passion for bringing people together through all different kinds of community gatherings, but in particular through co-working gatherings, which I've been just such a big fan of for so long. And so what has happened is I got into the co-working world, I got to see it become this big thing, and now I get to kind of see where it's going from here, and we're going to get into that in the presentation. And then I also recently co-ran this online program called Gathering Summit, which was a virtual conference specifically focused on the issue of addressing the epidemic of isolation that's going on in the world today. And so all the different people who are creating different kinds of gatherings that are addressing that issue. And what I have found in the course of my recent exploration of the gathering world, and then also kind of continuing to be engaged in the co-working world through the online network that I run. I have basically a membership network for co-working spaces. And then through the conferences I've been attending. I was just at the Juicy conference last week, where I got to, or week before last, goodness gracious, time flies. But say a quick hey if you saw me at Juicy back in Denver. That was super fun. So what I've been doing is I've been looking at where the parallels are in these things, because I feel like co-working spaces are more than just workspaces. If you're joining this chat, you probably feel similar, but the language that we have for what that means, for what does it mean to be more than just a workspace, is something that we're still kind of figuring out. And so I think I've got some thoughts, I know I have some thoughts on where we can go with this. And so that's what I'm going to be presenting to you about. I put together some slides. I'll be showing them to you in a moment. And then we'll be taking your questions. It's going to be a little bit of a discussion. I kind of have an idea of where I think I could go with this, with the stuff I have. But I would love to get your thoughts on if I'm going the right direction. And that way we can all figure this out together. So sound good? Ready to go? Ready to jump into the presentation? Any questions before we begin? Go ahead and drop them in the chat. Can you hear the horns outside? This is New York City. It's part of the character of it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, by the way, check this out. I am doing a live broadcast of my actual screen. So you're going to see some stuff happening while we're at it, but we should be good to go. Yes? Okay, broadcast is happening. So we're done with that. So what does it mean to be more than a workspace? This is a thing that has been a question for so many spaces for so long, in particular because being more than a workspace is what so many of us want to be able to get people to understand is the case, but that's proving to be not necessarily the most obvious thing. So let's start, first of all, by rewinding the clock a little bit. Circa 2005, this was when I was working from home, and laptops and Wi-Fi were still kind of a new thing. And at this point, co-working had not been invented yet. So if you wanted to go somewhere, meet other people and hang out, there were kind of pre-co-working spaces, but for the most part, you didn't have anywhere to go. And I wanted somewhere where I could go, where I could find awesome people to hang out with, where I could feel a sense of belonging. And in the course of the ensuing 14 years, we've gone from no spaces to 14,000 or so spaces, which is super, super great. look at all those wonderful pins on the map. And so that's a really exciting thing. Yay, mission accomplished. Now I can go anywhere on earth and find an amazing community of people to hang out with, right? Well, here's the thing. We've got all these spaces, but they're not all necessarily doing a great job of being amazing community spaces. And so we've got some problems now, because it's not all that we kind of dreamed of it being. For those of us who were around back that many years ago, we're now starting to see even this kind of pushback against co-working spaces. It wasn't hard for me to find this commentary on people who are not fans of co-working spaces. And this is troublesome to me, who is a big fan of co-working, to see people talking this way about this thing that I was so excited about. So what happened here? Like, why do we have all these spaces and yet have so little in the way of actual real love and commitment for these co-working spaces? And so because I think in part people are building spaces, but they're not necessarily building these amazing communities that really realize the potential of what it is that we're trying to do. And so we've got this kind of new conversation happening around, everybody says we're more than a workspace. If you go on any workspace's website, they're going to use some kind of language that says that they have this amazing community and blah, 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 blah. And some of them are awesome, and some of them truly are more than a workspace, but a lot of them kind of aren't. And some of them want to be, some of them maybe don't want to be, but they want to be perceived as being. But we still have this language issue around what does it actually mean if you want to attract people, if you want to show people what it means to be more than a workspace. And so I know for me, it has to feel like I can walk in and I can feel like I'm welcome, and I can feel like I can find people that I can belong to. And I want to feel like that everywhere in the world. I want to see a map of spaces where I can feel like that. And I know that most spaces aren't going to be like that, but I want to have at least one in every city. I feel like I know I can go there and it's going to be a welcoming, awesome vibe. And so like right now, if I look at if I go to a given city, of course, like if I go to Austin, I know where to go because I'm friends with some of those people, but now there's spaces, but like which one is the one that has really awesome community? I might be able to tell using my own kind of heuristic of just kind of the vibe on the website and the language and things like that. But even then, it might be hard for me to tell if that's going to be the right vibe for me. And how do I even kind of get into that in the first place? And so what we want to do is we want to treat this like an opportunity, because in this is a chance for us to do something a little bit more meaningful. And so right now, since most people aren't members of any space, it's largely because they don't need workspace. And I think this is where we can create a different kind of a dynamic in our space to sell and offer something that isn't just workspace. And if you watched my presentation at Juicy a couple weeks ago, you know that we've kind of touched on this already to some degree. But the thing is that the people who we want to serve, who could be hanging out in our space, maybe they don't need workspace, but they do need help with a bunch of other things that make their lives easier, right? Everyone is distracted, so there's a lot that we can do as far as helping people with distraction. People need help growing their businesses. Working by yourself is always a challenge. And then feeling that sense of camaraderie and belonging. I know, like working from home is awesomely convenient, but I have no help when it comes to these three things. Being alone by myself. Now, I don't need workspace, but I do need to be around other people who can help me with these things. And so, does a workspace address these needs? It can. A lot of spaces maybe do just kind of implicitly, just by existing, but we can go further with it, right? It's what happens in the workspace that really defines whether your space is going to effectively help people get somewhere or not. And so what could be happening is we can be proactively facilitating experiences that help people to achieve those three things and more. There's a big conversation these days about deep work and the need for people to be able to focus. And even within a co-working space, you'll see dynamics where community managers want to get members to participate in stuff, but they don't want to be bothered because they want to focus. And so even within a co-working space, you have issues that you have to deal with around what it means to create a focused work environment. This is something we can actually offer as a service. And so one of the things that I discovered in the course of my exploration of the kinds of gatherings that are happening out there now is that there are actual programs specifically focused around focus and deep work and productivity. And so here in New York and also in Los Angeles, there's a program called CAVEDAY, which, if you don't know, is a facilitated event all around focus. So they do kind of like these warm-up exercises like you see in this photo. They make you commit to working on a specific thing that you need to work on, and then they'll set timers. And when the timer goes, you got to focus. If you're familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's built on basically that kind of idea. But it's a facilitated experience. So it's not just I'm renting workspace and I'm just going to go show up whenever. CAVEDAY has a start time. It has a break time. It has an end time. There's a really specific sense of I'm going there to get some work done, and I'm going to focus, and there's going to be specific times to focus, specific times to break, and that's going to help me be more productive. And these guys charge pretty decent rates for each day that people come in and do this. Could we reproduce stuff like this in co-working spaces? Absolutely. I use a program called Worksprints that I developed to do that. We'll talk more about that later. And there are other programs that are kind of in this vein. There's a thing called Work Party, which is also a very similar kind of pop-up co-working thing. There is a website called Focus.me, which is online and remote, but it basically gives you a chance to find a virtual buddy that you can do focus sessions with, which is super cool. These are all really good ideas. We can take these ideas and apply them in the co-working context. I think that's probably one of the best starting points, because co-working spaces are workspaces. So if we can be productive and social about being productive, then we get to kind of have the best of both worlds. So I'm a big fan of focused work sessions as being one of those directions. It adds this layer of intention, and that's one of the kind of things that we want to see in a co-working space that's trying to stand out from the other workspaces. Is just you're going to have a reason to go, and that there's some facilitated component to it. So then, instead of when you're talking to people who are potential coworkers, instead of saying like, come rent my workspace, you're saying, come to our focus session, come to this next upcoming program, this next event. And that's going to make it a lot more compelling and a lot easier for you to feel authentic selling. It can be so kind of challenging to try to get people to care about your workspace when it's just always there and you're always just trying to sell it. But if you're offering an invitation to an actual program, it's a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting. And so my whole theory, and my theory that I've tested, and it's true, is that people will pay for membership if a space helps them to be more productive, find that belonging, to get out of their house, to be able to get help with what they're trying to do. And so that's kind of what I've been working with co-working space owners to facilitate, through my network, through the clients that I have. And so far, that's been pretty effective, which is cool. In the meantime, that's kind of like core stuff. That's just kind of how running a co-working space, you can do it better without adding much more. It's to just add that layer of intention. If that's all you get from this, you're already off to a really heckin' good start, right? So let's kind of put a pin in that for a moment. I want to talk about how we can take things even further. Because even in the context of everything we've talked about so far, we're still kind of treating this as a workspace. And maybe, yes, it's a really well-run workspace where you're getting some productivity going, you're getting some help with your stuff, and that's got a really good vibe to it. But I think if you have a space where you can gather people in a more meaningful, like larger event space kind of a thing, then we can take this even further. So in the course of running Gathering Summit, which again, we got to interview all these amazing people and find out all these different kinds of communities that people are facilitating. We found out there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. This woman, Jill Saltzman, you can see in the corner here, she runs this network called Founding Moms. And Founding Moms is literally women business owners, not women, but women who are parents, who are business owners, and they're local mastermind groups that meet all over the country. And then they have an online community as well. And they're in a bunch of cities, and they want to grow to more cities. That's interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So many of the people at this gathering, some of the people we found out about, some of the people we interviewed, talked about, are running really, really interesting programs. There's a guy, Kyle Summersall, who's running a meditation program that involves other elements like music and conversation and dance to kind of lower the barrier to meditation for people who are just kind of getting into it. All kinds of like really neat stuff. And what's interesting is a lot of these things are just getting started. So a lot of these programs, maybe they're just in one city. Maybe they need to grow to more cities. Maybe they're in a bunch of cities, but they need to be in a bunch more. You can kind of see where the implications are for co-working spaces here. And so in Gathering Lab, which is kind of the organization behind Gathering Summit, we're developing an ambassadors program. We're going to be working with people in local cities to be producing kind of gathering related conversations locally to get more of these community organizers out of the woodwork and get more people into the world of organizing local community programs. And we're going to kind of keep pulling on that string and see where it leads us. And what we found was, for example, with Jill and what she's doing with Founding Moms, is that one of the biggest challenges for people starting a new community is having a place to do it in. And so this is creating a really kind of interesting dynamic when we think about the spaces that we have. And now we've got these people who are organizing things, who need space. There's something there, right? So how do you get, if you've got a space that's big enough that you could have events in it, how might you be able to use that space to support new kinds of communities? So if you're using your space to incubate, to grow other communities that people are already running or they want to get started, now they're bringing people into your space. They're doing whatever it is that they're doing. It can be deeply aligned, it can be loosely aligned with your space's mission, but you're getting people in the door, you're getting people to know what you're about and to be excited and to believe in what you're doing. This is where we're now creating a different perception of what it is that you're doing. Because if people are coming in to participate in programs that you're hosting at your space, then that's their first impression of your space. It's not as a workspace rental, but as this place where these cool gatherings are happening, right? And that's going to create a different perception of what the value of your space is to people who maybe don't need workspace, but do need access to these other things. So by doing this, by creating a space where people are gathering, whether by the ones that you produce, but then by the things other people produce as well, it's going to make it easier to attract new members. It's going to be easier to retain your existing members because you're creating meaningful culture. You're giving them constant reasons to keep coming back. And it's going to do a lot to create greater impact in your region, which is going to create all kinds of sponsorship opportunities. The rest of the word is opportunities. You probably could figure that out. See, there it is. Hello. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. Are you guys having fun? I haven't seen a comment yet since I started. Let me know how this is going for you. Drop me a comment. Say hi. I like comments. All right. So by creating a home base for people who are building communities in your city, by creating this beacon of belonging, you're going to be able to do something a lot more special. Diane, thank you. And so this is what I'm here to do, is recruit you into this idea of, can we create a gathering place? Can we create and by the way, working title, I feel like we need the right language, the right brand for this, so that when we, what I'd really love to be able to do is have that language so that when, let's go back to this, right? When you look at a space, when you look at a city, I want to be able to see that one that's sticking out, that is a thing, right? That has a name that we can search for. And maybe gathering place is too generic. I'm not sure. We got to play with that. I'm officially recruiting you for language for this, but I want to know if you're going to be the one who runs this in your city. I want to be able to Google it, and when I visit your city, I want to find you, right? So that's what we want to come back to. Oh goodness, I got to find my slide now. All right, create a gathering place, right? Maybe this is the language, maybe it's not, but let's roll with it for now, right? So if we have these gathering places, which right now I've got my existing network of New Work Cities members. New Work Cities is the name of my space network. Charlotte just said she loves a Charlotte's a member at New Work Cities. So if we've got this growing network spaces that I can use my existing New Work Cities network to start with. And we've got this growing network of people who are ambassadors who believe in, supporting more growing communities in their region. And those collectively can host and encourage and support and help to grow more local communities, then good things are going to happen, right? So this is kind of the theory that I'm playing with, right? All this stuff is what I can't get out of my head because I've got access to this. And I've got access to like a gazillion more spaces that could be a part of this conversation. But at least right now, I've got my core group of like the paying members of my existing community. I've got these people. We've got access to potentially a lot of these people and to get more of these people in their ranks. This is exciting to me. I feel like this is good. And if you're running a co-working space, this is a great way to support your business, right? So I'm thinking about maybe making this a workshop, maybe making this like a paid thing that I walk you through how to turn your space into a gathering place and we can all do it together. We can kind of build it as a team. If we did that, we'd be able, oh goodness, I got to move my little video. All right, here we go. So if we were to do a workshop type thing, I'd be able to take you through a lot of the things that we need to be able to do. First and foremost, finding the people that you would need to find in order to make this thing work, right? That's the context safari. It's one of my most powerful things based on a thing that our friends Alex Hillman and Amy Hoy used in one of their programs, where we're just going out and finding people to talk to and recruiting them into this mission. Doing seasonal planning, which is so important for a co-working space. We don't want this to just be a rut that you're in forever. We want this to be something that you are working on for a prolonged period and you're constantly refreshing the programming that you're doing program calendar design, and then developing your core programs, which is something that, again, you could facilitate in any size space. And we could talk a little bit about what those core programs will be in a moment. And then finding people to partner with, existing community organizers, new communities, and potential sponsors, potential collaborators, things like that. And then building this together and maybe even creating a bit of a public declaration to say, hey, we're building these gathering places. This is our map. This is who we are. This is what we're doing. And come join our, oh my goodness, I'm getting all kinds of faces from that. Thanks. Come hang out in our space. Come organize a program in our space. Come check out the cool programs in our space. And then let's start planting a flag to create an identity that's a little bit obviously more than just a workspace. I think if we did that in some way, whether through a workshop or otherwise, I think we'd be able to make a lot of progress. So if we did this, then we could focus on those core offerings. If you went to my Juicy Talk, you'll recognize these slides. These are things you could do in any space. You don't even need to have a space. This is a great way to start a space, is to run some of these programs. I'll explain what WAM is offline if you need that. But let's put together kind of core offerings that would help you run your space better. And then let's develop partnerships with people who would bring in kind of the other programs. And so if I did that, I feel like that would help co-working spaces with their business, so they would make more money and it would pay for itself very easily. This is kind of the here, and totally like help me out with this, because I'm always looking for the right way to sell something to co-working spaces, but I also want to be respectful of people's bank accounts, because I was a co-working space with a tight bank account. So hopefully I've got this right. But like if we did like right now, if you were a member of my my existing New Work Cities network for a year, that's $1,000, which is what those little dollar signs are, right? And if I can help you get 6 members that stay for 6 months, and there's $300 a month, that gets you $10,800, which is like 10x, right? More than pays for itself. If I help you get one sponsor at $5,000, then it's that many more dollars. So like this is a lot more than this. So I feel like that's probably a pretty good thing. I just don't know. Do spaces have the $1,000 to pay now? Would they rather pay monthly? Do we need to make this smaller and shorter? This is kind of where I'm focus grouping with you guys on this, because I'll gladly kind of like charge this, but I don't want to charge something that people can't pay. So I'm hoping that there's some folks in the chat who would be be able to help me with this. Or maybe if you're watching this after the fact and are recording, shoot me an email, let me know what you think. It's totally fluid. But one way or another, I want to use what I've got to support this thing. And so that's why I'm having this conversation, because I want to recruit you to help me figure out how to do it. I've got my New York City's network. I've got Gathering Lab and Gathering Summit. I've got my personal contacts, the Juicy community, all the folks that I've met through the years. And I feel like collectively we can figure out how to do this. So if you want to join now, help me figure it out. Membership at my co-working network, you can do that right now. Otherwise, shoot me a chat, shoot me an email. My email address is Tony, Tony, at nwc.co, nwc.co. You can see it right there. So if you're watching the recording of this after the fact or whatever, just let me know. And I will be looking at your comments momentarily. I see a few are building up, so I'm going to use that for discussion. I wish that there was a way that I could just patch in a few of you as video chatters, but I believe that's a constraint to the platform for now. So I'm just going to have to read your comments and kind of keep the conversation going from there. Let me know what you think. Let me know your questions. And I would love to just keep this conversation going, get your thoughts on where to go from here. While you build up those thoughts and questions, two quick things for you. For those of you who registered using the form and I asked you for jokes, thank you to the two of you who left me jokes. And thanks to Miles, who offered up our featured joke, which is, what is Whitney Houston's favorite kind of coordination? Anybody? Anybody? And I. Thank you to Miles for playing along with that joke request. While you are building up your questions, comments, I will also add special thanks to my coworker, my sister's dog, Paddington Bear. I'm just going to show you right now, is totally chilling on the floor, just hanging out. Patty, hey buddy, say hi to the internet. Say hi to the internet. Yeah, he's a good boy. So that's my sister's dog. She's my neighbor, and I'm dog sitting today. So I thought, dogs, why not, right? Say hi. Okay, cool. So let's get to your, I see some yays and some hearts. Very good. All right, so let's get into the conversation. I see a question from Stanley. Stanley, by the way, thank you for your support of Gathering Summit as a Gold Pass purchaser. Appreciate your help. Will it be okay for a city or community to have multiple ambassadors? Absolutely. If you're in a city where there are multiple people who want to facilitate gatherings and support the world of people who are creating gatherings, oh my goodness, great. Now you've got help. You've got multiple people who are going to be able to, you're going to be able to work with. You're going to be able to do a lot more. I was going to say do a lot more damage, but that's like one of those kind of like internet macho things that I don't like. You're going to be able to do a lot more good. So absolutely, multiple ambassadors, the more the merrier. I think we're gonna talk about this among me and Casey this week for Gathering Lab, how we're going to work with the ambassador program. But I think generally people who apply to be ambassadors in a given city, we're going to leave it to you to meet each other, get to know each other, figure out how best to work together as far as that's concerned. Miles is saying he likes the idea of a workshop. He wonders if it's possible to turn an underutilized event space into a gathering place. Totally. So this is one of the things that's coming up in Gathering Summit, is that I've been coming at this from the co-working perspective, but basically we could be having this whole conversation about churches or libraries or hotel kind of hangout lounge spaces, right? There are lots of underutilized space that could be turned into gathering spaces. Right now, I know the co-working world, so that's kind of a living thing for me. But in terms of the other kinds of spaces, yeah, totally. And I see that being a potential direction for us as far as this is concerned, is to involve not just co-working spaces. But I fear for now we'll probably start with co-working spaces. Although I'm looking forward to the day that somebody signs up for my thing who's running a totally not co-working space, but sees the value in what I'm doing from a co-working perspective. So it's definitely on the docket. Emily is saying, when you look at places to gather and then the concept of minimizing distractions, the space needs may be a bit different. Do you have any idea of how often people are coming in for focus work and for how long versus coming in for that option to gather. So yeah, there's a good question. I would say that when we are thinking about a given space, you want to think of it in terms of, there's kind of, for an existing co-working space, we always need to kind of be able to offer just the co-working option. That's not true. You could build a totally program-oriented space, but let's say that for now, we're not going to try to dictate people's schedules completely, and that people need to be able to just pay for workspace, come in, do their work, and leave, and not be bothered, not participate. You know, we're always going to kind of have that like core of people, because people have meetings, people have phone calls, people have to be able to kind of manage their own schedule. But you want to be able to give people the option to say, okay, this conference room or this table or this section of the space at these times of day are going to be programmatic, right? They're going to be facilitated spaces. And it's really cool to be able to put up like a little sign on a table that says, you know, hey, this table, 10 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays is your work sprint table. This is where you go if you want to do a facilitated focus session. And, you know, so that creates the expectation for everybody. I can come here and participate. And also, by the way, I shouldn't bother people who are sitting at this table during those times as well. So I think it helps if you give people kind of the option. We can't force people to get into this. So that's kind of my thinking on that. I hope I answered that question. If I didn't, drop another one in and I'll let you know. So with Charlotte has given me some thumbs up on this, that will create separate the real community co-working from other space. We're doing a lot of these things already, but to be known as a gathering place would definitely be a great distinction. Yeah, I agree, Charlotte. Like a lot of folks who are maybe watching this, a lot of folks out there are already doing basically everything I'm talking about, but we don't have language to help us distinguish who that space is from the other spaces, right? And that's exactly what one of the pieces that we're trying to figure out here is not even so much necessarily creating something new, but just taking the folks who are already doing it and giving us some more coordinated language to work together on. So that's a really important part. Larkin thinks that monthly would be a better way to go as far as payment is concerned rather than upfront. I totally agree with you, Larkin. In terms of a cash flow perspective, the folks that probably most want to help are exactly the kind of folks who would appreciate being able to spread out payment. So I think it makes sense. And I guess the idea is that if I'm providing something that's valuable enough, that people will get value from it, they'll make money from it, and they'll want to stick around to continue the program, to continue to benefit from it, and they'll be happy to kind of pay for it, especially if kind of right off the bat, if they're able to get value and say, like, wow, I got more members from this, and this made me money, so it's paid for itself. I'll stick around, hopefully, right? Boy, more comments coming in. Great. Thank you. We started as, this is Brian Lemmerman. Hello, Brian. We started as a gathering space for nonprofits, and after joining in here, it sounds like we've been trying to explain our space as a co-working space, but the co-working term seems to just be way too formal and businessy for us. This is helpful. Yes, totally. This is one of the issues that we have in a few different ways. I found this even explaining my background in mixed company to say, like, I found myself kind of hedging the language when I say, like, oh yeah, I'm in the co-working business, but it's not like the office space stuff that you're used to. Like, what I'm doing is cooler, and I have to like explain why what I'm doing is better than what you might think co-working is, right? Which is like totally frustrating to me as such a pro co-working guy. So yes, I think there's totally some better language to be had here in terms of saying we're this thing where all these great spaces, these great programs are happening, and we also offer workspace. So, Center for Social Change in Miami, awesome, Brian, amazing. I'm very excited to connect with you, and a fan of what you're doing. So keep up the great work there in Miami. Cool. Oh no, I resized the window now. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Yes, very cool. Stanley, I'd prefer to coordinate other ambassadors rather than be one myself. Yeah, awesome. Y'all can work that out as a group. So once we kind of figure out who's in your city, who wants to help out, we'll figure that out. And I feel like it may be a matter of language, but I see ambassadors as kind of being coordinators of other leaders. So it might just be a matter of us kind of defining those terms. Brian's wondering about decentralizing event spaces. Yeah, that's it's kind of a good question. To what extent do we centralize this versus making it kind of totally open source? Oh my goodness, that's it. We ran out of questions. Interesting. So what other questions, what other thoughts do you have? I am wondering, just based on what I've seen so far, it sounds like what I'm hearing is that I'm on the right track as far as us having this conversation, needing to have that better language, and maybe offering this up as a workshop, as a paid thing, could be a potential thing. I don't know how many people in this broadcast right now are people who are potentially interested in that thing, but you're certainly giving me some better thoughts on where to go with it. And it sounds like it might just be a matter of taking some more one-on-one conversations, more small group conversations around workshopping whatever that thing is with the people who are kind of the ones who want to build those more meaningful spaces, get a sense of exactly what the right way of approaching it is. And then we can kind of figure out where to go from there. But what I want to do is start offering up something in the next few weeks, one way or another, so that we can kind of keep this conversation rolling, and then see where it goes from there. I think if I can do a better job of kind of rallying and coordinating the physical spaces on the one side through my kind of co-working and New Work Cities work, and then we combine that with the kind of network of organizers and gatherers that we're building with Gathering Lab, then we should be able to smush these together and make some magic. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. And that's what I got. If you don't have any more questions or thoughts, then I'm probably going to wrap up the broadcast a little bit early and give you some time to chew on this and let me know any other thoughts or questions that you have. Rachel wants to know if the presentation will be available under my Facebook profile. Yeah, I think so. I'm going to decide. I may re-record this or edit it for people to watch afterward, but for now, I'll probably at least just make this available for anybody to watch it so people can catch up after the fact. So yeah, you'll be able to find this on my Facebook profile. I'll probably just post it on like my New Work Cities Facebook page as well, so you should be able to find it pretty easily. And if you want to message me privately, please do, to discuss more. Appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, thanks for coming out. Oh, okay. All right, Mindy wants to see it as well. All right, very good. We will catch you up, Mindy. Thanks everybody for coming out. Please shoot me a message, leave some more comments, let me know what you think, and let's keep this conversation going. In the meantime, keep doing great work in your city and keep being awesome.